Hi and welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about how to make a graph in Microsoft Excel. And this will be a relatively quick tutorial, so if you do find it useful, please click on the like button, consider subscribing and tapping that bell. It means a lot to the channel. And with that said, let's jump on over to Excel. Okay, so in this example here, I have a table of data that I would like to put into a line graph. I'm going to talk about the three different things fundamentally. So the first one is how line charts go wrong using data like this, how to create a line chart from a summarized subset of data, and then I'm going to show you a cheat at the very end of the video. So do stick around for that because that cheat will basically allow you to create a line chart within a few moments rather than having to go through a few hurdles like I'm going to show you now. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is I'm just going to click inside my data that I would like to put into a line chart. I'm going to go head over to the Insert tab and navigate over to the Chart section. From here, there's a little icon that looks like a line chart, and we can give that a click and you'll have all of your various options. I'm just going to click on the very first 2D line chart. This then gives me a line chart based on the data that I was in, or the data table that I was in. Now, unfortunately, Excel has assumed I wanted absolutely everything in my axis at the bottom here, and then sales down this one. And in doing so, it's basically repeated out all of the months, all of the salespeople, and so forth, and my line chart looks like it's having a heart attack. Now this is wrong. Obviously this is not what I wanted, and the reason for that is because I did not have my data summarized for Excel to be able to understand what I was trying to do. So instead what I need to do is actually create a little mini table which summarizes my original data set. So I'm just going to delete this table here, come over here and type away I want my sales, and I want them by month. Okay, so I'm going to just do this quickly. I won't bore you guys with what I'm doing specifically, but it will become very clear pretty quickly. Okay, so I'm going to summarize my data by month, and then I want the sales. So I'm just going to go and do a SUMIF function, and I'm going to summarize by the month. So I'm just going to do that, that, and that. And if you guys want to know more about how SUMIFs and SUMIFs functions work, go check out some of my other videos and I detail out what that is doing. I'm just going to change this to currency, and now I have a little mini table like this, and I can just convert that as a table and keep it nice and neat and in line with that one. So now I have a subset of data here, which is a summary of this data. This I could actually use for a line chart, right? So this one doesn't work, but this will work. And the reason for that is we've limited the amount of records that Excel has to try to understand and filter and then populate into a line chart. And we've given it exactly what we want in that chart. So now what we can do is with this data selected like this, so we can select the range, or because I converted this to a table, I can just click directly into the table, head over to the Insert tab, head over to the line chart button, give that a click, and then click on the 2D chart. And now I have a line chart that shows the months across the bottom and then the net volume of sales as we progress through the months. So we can see now that this chart is exactly what I was looking for, but I could only achieve it from this particular mini table. And then that leads me on to the cheat method, or the preferred method, and something that I would recommend that you guys do rather than having to create little mini tables like this. And that is allow Excel to create you a pivot table. Yes, a pivot table, but I mean a pivot chart. What we'll do is we'll just select here. Actually, no, we'll select into our main data, and we'll head over to the Insert tab. This time we'll head over to the Chart section, and then you'll see a pivot chart. If we click the pivot chart, it then has identified that I was inside that data set and has pre-selected it for me. And that's what this is doing here. We can use an external source if we would like, but I'm just going to use this data. Next on the list is where we would like to actually put our pivot chart. I want it in the same sheet, so I'm just going to click on the existing worksheet, click into the location box, and I'm going to select just here underneath my original data. I'm going to click OK. Now this opens up a couple of things. One is a pivot table, and then the second is the pivot chart. Okay, so in order for the pivot chart to populate, we first have to tell Excel what we would like out of our data set into this chart. And like this, we can recreate it. So I can grab my months and put them into the axis of category, and I can grab my sales and put them into the values. And now by default it's assumed I want it as a bar chart, but I can change that as well. And we can see that this has now recognized everything that I had listed out in here, but just from a pivot chart rather than from having to create this manually. I can use Excel's pivot table to generate me a pivot chart, and I can update this as this updates and everything else stays in line perfectly well. Now if I want this in a line chart, with this chart selected, I come over to the design tab at the top here, which is a contextual tab, give that a click, and then we can see all the various styles that we can give the charts across here, and you can do as many of those as you like, mess around with that. But if you come to the change chart type, select that, click on line, select the line chart, and then click OK, we now have the same chart as what we created at the top here, generated from a pivot table and a pivot chart from the bottom. And it's so much quicker to start using pivot charts than it is to try to create line charts, pie charts and whatnot from scratch, having to create these little mini tables like this to start with. And there's lots of other functionality that you might get wound up with using pivot tables on, but you can turn off your field list so that gets hidden out of the way. You can turn off all of these things. You can relabel all of this stuff as well. So if I wanted to call it sales, I can call it sales. And once you've got it set up once, because it's a pivot table, you can just refresh the table and refresh the data. You don't have to mess around with it again. And yeah, that's how you set up a graph in Microsoft Excel. Hopefully you found this useful, guys. If you did, please click the like button, hit subscribe, and tap that bell. It does mean a lot to the channel. And I will catch you guys in the next video.